Thanks for coming. My name's Sean O'Neill. I'm from the AV Club, avclub.com. Yeah, all right. How many of you guys waited all night just to see me? Yeah, you did. All right. I'm sure that's true. Of course, you're waiting today for two of the most innovative, weirdest artists of the last 25 years. These guys are going on tour together. 23 dates, the End Times Tour. You can see them in Chicago on August 7th. I'm going to go ahead and bring them out because I know you guys have been waiting. Billy Corgan and Marilyn Manson.
We didn't really hear what you said about us, but it sounded
It was nice.
good.
You got to use the microphone.
It was very complimentary.
Good.
You said the weirdest?
I said you're two of the weirdest artists of the last 25 years.
I disagree with the assertion of weird.
We're already off to a good start.
I don't think there's anything weird about being an artist.
Okay,
I'm
true.
with him on that one.
That's true.
That's true.
Can you hear us out there?
Maybe,
Okay, go.
Maybe unusual and exemplary.
Would unusual be better?
Exemplary,
Eccentric?
awkward compared to our peers. Could I think if that's what you meant by weird?
Yeah, there's degrees of weirdness to art, right?
Well, but the thing is there's being weird, which there's always room for, and then there's being weird and being successful. And when you put those two together, that's a very small camp of people, and we're proud, I think, to be in that camp, because it's not easy. Because on one side, you're not mainstream enough, and you're always getting shit for not being commercial enough, and the other side, the weird people are always complaining that you're too commercial. This is a weirdly weird, awkward place to be, and we've been in that space for.
So we're weirdly weird. Triple G, triple W. All
So
right.
I think that's probably a good segue for my first question is just why are you guys touring together now? Why now?
Because.
All right, good one.
Well, because we hadn't seen each other in about 15 years, and we had never played together before, but we were so close, and all the memories came rushing back. I saw him in London, and my father sent me a picture that my mother had taken of us three together. I was wearing a cowboy hat, I think, in a football jersey, possibly.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
it was the you that nobody knows.
Yeah, the one that you know. And I started remembering all of the details. Sometimes, I have a really strong memory. Billy will.
You do.
Will
It's
point
pretty
that out.
crazy. It's almost photographic, I would say.
It's close to didactic, but I forgot. Sometimes you suppress things. Well, whatever, It's just I
I
didn't forget.
suppressed Rose McGowan. She's suppressed in my mind.
He did write a really strongly worded
I
letter,
did.
which
I
I'm
did.
gonna find when I do. I want to see if you wrote in cursive or not. But it was about how you should not be with this girl; she'll ruin your career. And of course, being a man with a woman in your life, that wasn't really why we didn't talk for all those years. But it was one of the factors in our life that, that we hadn't seen each other. So we ran into each other, and it was great to see him. And it seemed, for me, I was almost making this newest album. I was in the mode in my head around the same time when I saw him, the last time I saw him. And Billy taught me how to play guitar, so it's his fault. You can blame him for that.
What was Marilyn like as a guitar student?
As a guitarist?
Guitar student, yeah.
Oh, no, he's
You know,
awful, but
it's terrible.
but he doesn't have to be
another-
great on guitar,
Yeah, it's more of a prop. You just said, just hold this.
No, but I did. I saw at times where he was frustrated, where he had to rely on other people to write music, and so I said, "Let me just show you a real simple way to do it. So if you want to write on your own," and he still has the guitar and still
I do. It's a guild.
has the
Beautiful guitar.
special tuning.
My special tuning that
Yeah.
really created for me, especially.
The game like the
Could play with one finger.
the one finger.
It's this one
Yeah,
right
yeah,
here.
exactly.
That's the only one you need, right?
It is really.
It's
for the
worked
most
out,
part,
yeah.
So you guys have known each other for a pretty long time. Can you tell me what your first impressions were of each other the first time you met?
I was very intrigued by what he was doing musically and visually, culturally, and he was obviously on the rise. And I was really refreshed to find that because I'd sort of lumped him in another camp, that he wasn't at all like I thought that camp was.
You mean Nine Inch Nails,
Yeah,
essentially.
yeah. Which, you know, certain camps tend to have a vibe, and so I just lumped him in with that. And so when I met him as a person, I thought, wow, this is an independent thinker. Yeah, I was just very impressed by him. And what's funny is the relationship that we had right away as friends is completely the same relationship we have today. It's very strange because I can't say that about many people. Like, whatever we had from the beginning, we still have.
Yeah.
It's a mutual respect or love or admiration, or we sort of understand.
Brothers.
Yeah, well, almost like brothers, yeah. We kind of understand each other in a way that I think very few people understand us in the world. And I don't know, hate to use the word, it's comforting in a way. No, it is, because, I mean, I feel like I've had to explain myself so much in public life, and when I'm with him, I don't have to explain anything. He gets my weirdness, and it's okay.
I mostly talk the most. But
I listen, yeah. I'm a
Billy's
listener.
a good listener. But he doesn't
I find that hard to
the,
believe.
the first time that I didn't meet you was when you called, and I answered the phone.
When you were working for?
When I was working with Trent Reznor, Billy was calling, asking for him. And it was when I was making my first record. And he's like, I said, no, he's not here. And I said, can I take a message? So he said, yeah, tell him Billy Corgan called. That was the first time that we ever talked, actually. But I didn't say who I was. I was just the guy that
You were
answered
just
the phone. I was just the phone answerer.
the lowly assistant.
I was not an assistant. I was just there.
You a cocaine buddy?
No, I was actually I was
A budding artist.
a budding artist filling in for Rich Patrick
Right.
on guitar.
I think I just watched
Does
this.
this make any
without
sense?
Yeah.
Without you teaching me. So that makes
Right,
me
right.
and Rich Patrick equally as schooled in guitar. So, go ahead. That was just. I gave that to him today. It's a cat toy.
Yeah.
Despite all his rage. Sorry, I took it. I didn't mean to take the joke.
No, it's
from
all right. So I think I just actually just watched this footage today, I think, of you guys at the Private Parts premiere in 1997. And
Yes.
this is something that you wrote
yeah.
about in your memoir.
Yeah.
I think there are muscle relaxers involved.
Mm-hmm.
And there was discussion of maybe forming a band based on the feeling you get from muscle relaxers.
Yep.
Whatever happened to that band?
Well, I think that this tour that's what happened to it. I mean, the band was going to be called Fruity at the time because we thought that the pills made us feel fruity. I don't really know what that meant at the time. I don't know if it was more of a in the moment situation or if it was the surroundings.
Yeah, I think there was a fantasy of what it would mean to have a band together. And then, like, everybody that we would meet was in the band. Like, Flavor Flav was in the band. And
anyone, yeah.
Jenna Jameson was in the band. Everybody was in the band.
Yeah.
But then it never happened.
What
That's
did
why
Jenna
drugs
Jameson
are
play?
bad.
What did Jenna Jameson play?
What did Jimmy
You want to
Jameson
take?
play?
You want to take that one or
Yeah, what did she play?
I won't even say like the
Oh,
obvious
yeah.
joke.
Canary?
She would play the caged canary.
So you guys have done a lot of singing, not a lot of, you've done some singing together lately, so I assume that's going to be part of your tour. You're going to do some.
Yeah, we were
drugs.
upstairs actually just discussing songs we're going to do. We're going to come out at the end together and play some songs. So I think one song we're looking at is, should we say or no?
No,
No?
keep it a secret.
Save it for
No?
a surprise.
All right, well, it's Billy's idea, so he could say it.
But we can gauge your reaction right here.
Go ahead.
Girls just want to have fun.
All right, then it's the winner.
I mean,
Girls
mean-
just wanna have fun. Oh, girls, they wanna have fun.
they
Sippers,
wanna,
They
they wanna
wanna.
have fun.
They
They
wanna.
wanna.
They wanna. They wanna.
See, it's a
They
winner.
wanna. They wanna. It'll be very.
It's like you'll get a sense of what Fruity would have been like.
Yeah.
Are you trading verses, or what are you doing? It.
I believe in the annals of history. He has a better idea of what
I
girls
believe in
want
the
for fun
annals
than I
of
do.
history. The annals of history.
I said the annals.
I know. I said the annals. That's why girls want to have fun.
That's why you know.
That's why girls want to have fun. Boom. Nailed it. Nailed it like Jesus.
So I know we don't want to give away too much of what's going to happen on the tour, but how
we do. We're shameless here.
You want to just give the set list to everybody?
I think the set list is pretty self-evident. It'd be
that's
rock
the thing.
and roll power.
That's the thing is like, how do you balance? You guys both have new albums. How do you balance the set list towards new material and kind of giving these guys probably what they want to hear?
It's a tough. I don't know. These days, I'm not shy about talking about it. I mean, these days, people come expecting a greatest hits concert, whether you want to give it to them or not. So you can either play that concert, and a lot of people leave happy, or you can decide not to play the concert, and your fans that sit on the internet every day are happy, and then the other 97% of the people are angry and lobbing firebombs at you on Twitter because they didn't get their teenage memory handed back to them. So I think the key is to find a balance between the material you probably should play and then the new stuff that fits in well with that. And lately we've been doing that a lot, and it goes really well. And I think I don't know, I speak for you, but I think your sets is a really nice balance of your most famous songs with the new work that's super strong. And what's cool is if you do it right, it actually is a great case to why the new music is just as strong as the old music. And I think we're in that sort of same balance too. Is that fair?
Yeah, I just think that I like to play songs that I feel define me musically.
Yes, I hate doing that, but
well, I know that's where we differ. But you have songs that I'm just gonna make you play because I like them. So it's not really about anyone else's choices. But
we should just call it the Rat in the Cage tour, really, because.
Well, we got Cage open up for us too.
That's true.
So that's perfect.
Speaking of what you guys want, let's open this up to fan questions. Who has a question for these guys? All right here in the front. I'm just going to be walking around like Donahue all night. So,
hello, Manson and Billy.
Yes.
Hi. So my question is, if you could choose one song from your entire discography that means the most to you personally, what would you choose?
Oh, you want to put me on the spot first?
Yeah.
All right.
Exactly.
It means the most to you personally.
No, means the most to you.
That's what I mean. I think the song that makes me the most sensitive to listen to back is normally listen to my own music because you have to listen to it so many times when you're making it that you really get sick of hearing it sometimes. But then it changes when you play it live. It becomes a whole different creature because you're exchanging it with people. When you're making an album, there aren't people there usually. In the same way, and people say, what's the difference between off stage and on stage? And usually off stage, I'm talking to people I know. On stage, I'm singing to people I haven't met yet, like you just now. And I think the song that if I listen to of my own that I've written is called Lamb of God off of Holywood. That song, for whatever reasons, is the most powerful to me. And maybe because it has a collection of all of the references of things that meant a lot to me growing up, whether it be Christianity and John Lennon and how they all smashed themselves together, and it became part of my, I don't know, I think that was a defining moment in my life when I wrote that song, so I would say that that's why.
Yeah.
It was a sensitive moment in my life.
For me, it would be probably Disarm, because it's one of the few songs that I've wrote back in the day that still has a personal connection, where most of the other material I feel like people kind of took it away from me, and they hand it back to me with something different than what I wrote it as, which is fine. Sometimes the reaction's better and sometimes the reaction's worse, but that's the song where it's like it doesn't matter what anybody thinks, I still feel connected to it.
It's my favorite song of his.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Well, you know, I listen to it every night and cry a little tear right there because it just, and it's not even just for nostalgia. It's very, that song, I can feel knowing him, his personal heart and soul in there, everything, yeah.
Hi,
Hello,
Billy.
how are you?
Mr. Handsome, how are you?
Hey.
Hey. I don't know if you remember me. I just gotta say real quick. I'm the guy who, the nun, and then the sweater in Milwaukee.
Yes.
I met you at Rockford for like my 5th meet and greet, and I was going through a lot of shit, breakup pain, and you actually told me, put your hands on my shoulders, and you said, hang in there, you're gonna find someone better. And I just want to say thank you for that, and I did. She's awesome.
There you go.
Wow.
Saved me.
We need to start a church.
Hallelujah.
We need to
Hallelujah.
I think we should start a church.
And my question, I guess, is you've done a shitload of interviews, and the ones that stand out a lot was probably when you're on Politically Incorrect. I love those. And Bill Maher's been doing Real Time with Bill Maher and killing it every week. Can you maybe have your guys call up his guys and get on Real Time with Bill Maher?
Yeah, there's been talks about that. It's not the same as it was on Politically Incorrect. That I found to be a form that I'd really like to talk about things on, or just be me on. Real Time, I don't watch the show so much anymore. I mean, if you're a fan of it, I understand, but it's not. It's an odd balance. He did have a magic when he would invite really completely opposite, diametrically opposed characters onto the show, and that's when I went on it, because it was that made it politically incorrect, and obviously he got kicked off TV for that. But I liked his documentary about religion, and I don't really know if there's anything we wouldn't just rehash what we already said, but I will kill it, but first I have to find it, then I kill it. Thank you.
All right, Manson.
Congratulations.
You just touched on this earlier, but I'm a fan who would love more variety in the set list. I understand if there's conflicting forces in that, but I'm just curious what goes into your logic with that. Like, how do you achieve the balance? You've been good lately with Cake and Sodomy, I'll say that.
Ooh, he's got a little sass.
Wow. Okay. It's a compliment, sort of.
Have you been to the shows? Okay, all right. Well, yeah, I think that there's not conflicting forces as much as there are, when you get into a groove of something and it feels right, you don't want to change it. It's almost like when you find a nice pair of pants or something that you like to wear and it feels right and you want to keep in it. Billy likes variety more than I do. And I've just never been that good at change. That's the weird thing about me. If I want to talk about weird, is that I like consistency.
Yeah, I'm the opposite. I want to change it every night.
Yeah, I just like to. I'm used to a piece of paper saying this is what time your show starts, and this is what you're gonna. These are the songs that you chose to play. So sometimes my brain isn't conditioned to handle change, but I think with this tour, his influence is probably going to rub off, so it'll be different. So I would say that there's going to be a lot more variations. Maybe I'll make up 4 to 5 different shows. Yeah.
I would say if we just go out and play greatest hit sets, I don't think that's the show we're meaning to do, right? I mean,
no.
We want to have like.
Well, I never had any hits. You had hits.
No, you had hits. You had hits. I'll remind you later. You had some hits.
Hitish.
Yeah, Billy, you've kind of been very vocal about your displeasure with nostalgia in the past. I think maybe people that would look at a package tour of the two of you guys might say, well, that's sort of a nostalgia tour. How is this different from a nostalgia tour?
I don't think there's really any way to answer that question because...
self-indulgence.
Well...
We love each other.
We are who we are, and I think people... They confuse particular issues. Well, number one, we wouldn't be who we are, whatever that means to anybody at this moment, if we weren't fiercely independent. So when we align on something like this, the idea is not to compromise. The idea is to sort of find the leading edge on something. That involves the staging, everything else. But these days, the idea of the set list and what the fans demand, what they don't understand is that past that is that why people go to a show isn't to hear a greatest hits record. They go to a show to see something that says, there's a reason I'm in this particular spot on this night to see this person or these people. And if you don't really believe in that, then you don't really believe in rock and roll. You don't really believe in the stuff that we believe in. Right? Rock and roll, you could argue both destroyed and saved us, but I mean, it's led us out of something into something else. And I think after 25 years and 20 years, we can stand for that pretty. And I mean, obviously, we also represent things beyond our musical. We've stood up for things that we should have maybe kept our mouth shut. We represented other things. So coming to see us play isn't just what's the song's going to be. That's obviously an important part of it. if people want to attach nostalgia to it, they don't really understand what we're about anyway. It's like I once had a conversation with Pete Townsend of The Who. If they're playing a song and you've got to relive your memory in the back of the car, that's really your issue. That's not the artist's issue. As long as I feel strongly about what I'm doing, if you want to call it nostalgia because I'm playing a song that I wrote that's still better than most 99% of other people's songs, then call it what it is. But at the same time, if you go see me play and I'm playing 16 songs, 4 or 5 of those songs are brand new. So I'm not just playing like the one single or whatever. So I don't know what to say to that because when have I ever represented nostalgia? And
that is the nostalgia of it.
Thank you.
That
and what's even weirder is it's
in the beginning.
What's even weirder is it's sunk in so far that people even have a hard time if I was to do something nostalgic because it's like they want to take it away from you like it's not yours to use. I want to do something that would be nostalgic at some point, but my way. So when people talk about nostalgia, it's their version of nostalgia, which, by the way, is really fucking boring. Look how many bands now for 5 years have been doing the play the record. And, do you hear a big buzz about that stuff?
With different singers and things.
But I'm saying it doesn't even. But it's not even a big buzz in the marketplace about that anymore. Everybody's done it. Everybody's ran to that till. So now what? What qualifies as nostalgia? I don't know. Well, we want to tour together because it'll be powerful. For what it is.
When we did our first album tour, when I did Antichrist Superstar tour, no one had heard that record before. I played it live. So, it's the fearlessness is what our nostalgia is. Being fearless and doing what we want to do.
People forget that at one point those records were not easy things to digest.
No. And at the time that's really kind of what put us here where we are is because of our early work, but it's not always about like you want playing the early work only, but it is good to throw some of that back in there. And I think what he's saying is like if that's what suits him. And for me, I just like to see what like when you tested the crowd's response on the songs. When you said Cyndi Lauper,
right?
It's in the same way. It's there is an element of not giving people what they ask for, giving people what they want. No, I don't. No,
I get you.
No, I won't take demands. I'm not a chef, or I'm not a waiter. I'd be more like a chef if we want to make food analogies. For some reason, we're in a restaurant. No, I'm not. I'm a bartender. I'm not a bartender. Right. No, it's just we know. I think that we've always known what we want. And we want the same things that most of the people that listen to our music want because we are the same feelings a lot of times.
Right, and but I reject the generational malaise that believes that people like you and I can no longer make great music. That's what I reject. The minute you think we can't make great music anymore, then what do we represent?
That's true. That's true. It's just, for like Scary Monsters, Bowie record, one of my favorite. It's the first Bowie record I ever heard. That was into his career about the same.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what I'm saying. If people had decided 7 years ago that you were done, they wouldn't hear this record, which is one of the best records you've ever made.
Thank you.
But I'm saying that's real. That's real because it comes from you know what I'm saying. It's like if you don't believe in that, then you're not a rock and roll fan. You're not really a fan. You're a curator of a library, and we just happen to be one of the books in the fucking library. I'm just not into that vibe. I reject that trip totally. I'll reject it till I die.
I don't have a library card. So
there you go.
All right, what do you want to request from these guys?
So this is for my favorite artist, Billy Corgan.
Oh, thank you.
So thinking about your first couple albums and your past in general, your relationship with your friends, and I know it's been kind of hard for you as an artist. With your friends in the past, like speaking of the band in particular, is there anything that you would have changed or did differently, or can you talk about that?
You talking about the journey that the original band took and all that?
Yeah, the journey that the original.
It's really, really hard because I think the pressures of today are different than the pressures of then. The pressures of then were MTV, selling millions of records. It's hard to even compare the times, but sometimes a little bit of context helps. So think of the Smashing Pumpkins playing in the city around 1990, 91. We were playing to 400 people, 800 people. We had this album come out. 4 years later, We're on the cover of every magazine in the world. We're playing arenas, you know, and none of us had come for money or anything. So all that pressure and all that stuff, I think, was beyond us. So I think if I had it to do over again, I would have slowed the whole thing down and given us some time to kind of even process what was going on. But it was like, it's literally like being on a really fast-moving train. Once it gets going, everybody around you just wants you to keep going, going, going. And the train's, it's like Willy Wonka, you know, it's the thing, he's getting faster, faster, faster. And you can see where everybody's getting wigged out, but there's no way to stop it. Once you're off it, and once the thing blows up or whatever it is that happens, then it becomes really obvious what you should have done. For me, probably the most telling moment is when Jonathan Melvoin died, which was a horrible tragedy, and Jimmy left the band. That would have been the moment either to quit the band or stop the band or take a year off and just kind of process it all down. Instead, it was like, boom, we were right back on tour 6 months after that. I mean, 6 weeks.
That's how we grew up, too.
That's how we grew up, yeah.
I mean, a lot of people don't realize that I never lived alone until recently. I went from living with my parents, going on tour, and that was it. Never came back.
Mm-hmm.
So this is our. It's like being a child actor in some strange way, but not the same. But it's not in any way the same. But it's actually that was the worst example I could ever give.
You're a chef.
No, it's just how we grew up. You know, we make mistakes, we learn, we live, we learn, we change. You try to just do things better the next time around, or you don't look at them as mistakes. You look at them as lessons and experience. I don't feel like I'm mature at all. I just feel like I'm experienced. Yeah, I'm like the 11th grader. He's the 12th grader I look up to. That's what it is. That's all it is.
Yeah, Billy, this is to your point, actually all encompassing. The Granada, you kicked off the Machino tour in Lawrence, Kansas. So that was, I think, one of the best shows of you doing past and new stuff that blew my mind. Like, I think you threw Billie Jean in that set, which was amazing. And so I guess, I don't know, all coming full circle, I heard just your recent new album you released. I felt like that kind of brought you back to an older Pumpkin style in that album, I felt like. Where it was just a little more calm, a little more relaxed, more to rock and roll. So do you feel like that's similar, or?
Do I agree with that assertion?
Maybe, yes.
No.
That's no? Okay.
No, I don't agree.
Okay.
I think here's why I would agree with what you're saying.
Yeah.
I think that when we're young and we're developing our sound or whatever, our style, it's like a language. And as I went along into the late 90s and early 2000s, I tried to develop new languages or different types of languages. So a return to into the language that I really understand, because I developed myself, is not a return to the old sound as much as it's a return to a certain languaging.
Muscle memory, almost.
Yeah, and what makes me laugh is anytime I've done it basically, I obviously started trying to change my sound around 95. So now we're talking 20 years of in and out of that languaging. Every time I even dip one toe into that language, it's like, oh, he's gone backwards. It's like maybe like if you took a long trip to India and Morocco and ate different foods. So when you come back home and you eat macaroni and cheese, it doesn't mean you're back to your old ways. It means you just come back to something that you understand. Sometimes it's like a touchstone, like it's a world that you've inhabited and you've built it, so you can go back there anytime. And it always makes me laugh because when I've done a lot of experimenting, people assume that I've hit my head and I don't know how to get back to the guy who made Siamese Dream or whatever. It's always strange to me because I could make that kind of music tomorrow, but it's not the way I'm wired. So it's almost like treated as if I'm either dumb or I hit my head and I don't know how to be that person anymore, rather than the respect of someone who's tried to go to different places and always come back to the core languaging with something new to offer. So when you hear a certain level, let's call it familiarity in the newer work, you're sometimes overlooking that there's other things in there that would have never been there if I hadn't done all those other things and tried all those other things to come back to, let's call it something that's familiar to me. But it's not an attempt to familiarize myself with the audience, because if I wanted to do that, I would have done that a long time ago.
It's sort of when we met, you were going like we
Adore,
both.
Yeah,
it
was all about breaking.
Well, and I made Mechanical Animals, which, thank you, I liked it. But and Billy also was. Billy was also very helpful in encouraging me into trying a new direction, and we were both wanted to change in music.
Yeah.
And if I had made Antichrist Superstar twice, I wouldn't be sitting
But
here.
see,
right
that's
now.
people really respect you for that album, you know.
Right.
And a
And
door,
it
in my
is,
case, which we were making literally, like he was making mechanical albums, I was making a door like literally down the street.
I was just I tried to convince him to wear makeup, and he tried to make me have more chords in my music. That was kind of the deal. That's why he gave me a guitar.
That was the deal with the devil, yeah.
You guys do have these very distinct personas. Is there, to what extent do you guys feel trapped within those personas that you guys have created for yourselves?
Not at all.
Not at all.
I feel that I've always only thing I feel trapped. I know you're gonna say rat in a cage, but I saved you from saying. You're just gonna. That's the answer. The end.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty wary with who people think I am publicly, which is why I've sort of moved on to other things. I obviously love rock and roll. I love music, but it's nice to be in a world like professional wrestling where I'm treated like a normal person who has an opinion. It's nice to go on shows about other topics other than my insanity and be treated like a normal person. It's not an excuse, but I think we've grown up in a very interesting transition from old media to new media, where the personalities that we are, whether we play them or not, became sort of part of something that's much bigger about headlines and clickbait and, Marilyn Manson slams, Mickey Mouse. You know what I mean? It's like it's a lot of that kind of stuff.
He was OGMM, Mickey Mouse.
Point is we developed those kind of strategies on how to, enrage or entice or provoke an audience before those systems came into place. And then once those systems came into place, like, we couldn't sort of stop being those people.
I think, if I can add it, yeah, well, I think that we existed before the idea of celebrity existed, but not
the modern version.
The modern version,
yeah.
Because Marilyn Manson was a commentary on celebrity, obviously with
Absolutely.
the combination of the names. But we lived in an era when people weren't famous simply for being famous. And so when people ever ask me what's it like being a celebrity, and I always respond, I'm not. I'm a rock star. That's what I grew up as, and a part-time TV star and or movie star, and painter and or dance coach.
TV star too now.
It's a part-time TV star.
Part-time TV.
No, but it's
prison rapist.
Yeah. Don't typecast me. Trying to get on some Disney channels. No, it's we existed in an era that many people. I think when our records came out, we didn't even have cell phones. I couldn't even text message you about the Jan Jameson incident while it was happening.
That's true.
If it were to have happened.
That's true. Do we have internet questions too? Because I could just hear.
We have a few. Well,
tweeting.
building off of what you said earlier about going into professional wrestling, we did have one question that was, let's see, it's Mr. Corgan. If you could be grappled into submission by any grappler, which grappler would you most like to be grappled into submission by?
I'd say The Rock, just out of the gate, but I don't know. I just like The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. Sorry,
So I don't have this this fetish with professional wrestling. I'm more into the I'm more into the storytelling.
Oh,
you want to pick a wrestler for me to be grappled to the ground?
Yeah, you
by?
and The Rock. I'd like to see that. That would be delightful for me.
Like in one of those family movies, or like.
Well, I just watched.
The San Andreas Fault, and then he saves me.
Yes, he cracks you open like the San Andreas Fault, and then saves you out of your own fault. It's not my fault.
Okay, we'll go with The Rock.
It's not my
The Rock.
fault. Yeah, The Rock. Yeah, I appreciate that you letting me pick.
All right, we did have one other one. It's do you guys have any pre-show rituals that you go through?
Mine's pretty boring. I warm up for about 40 minutes singing.
And then you get grappled by the rock.
That's probably the thing I hate the most is warming up.
Yeah.
It's the part of my job I detest. I just hate it.
I like to be there 3 hours before.
He's big on Justin Timberlake pre-show.
I do listen to Justin Timberlake in my pre-show warm-up. I'd sing along with Justin Timberlake. No, I just listen to music for about 3 hours.
Anything in particular besides Justin Timberlake, or what is it? Is that all you listen to?
Well, that's for me to know, for you to find out. But
all right.
Not just all Justin Timberlake, just certain songs.
But there's a heavy dose of Justin Timberlake.
You
have to admit that.
I like Only When You Walk Away. It's very sassy and bluesy. But I just listen to music for about 3 hours. It takes me about 15 minutes to put on my makeup tops. And that's just because I have to find it, because it's so dark in my dressing room. It's so dark.
His dressing room actually looks like
this, but darker.
No, but his dressing room looks like exactly what you'd imagine his dressing room to look like. It's kind of weird. Like when you walk in, you're like, wow, this is actually very what I thought it would be.
It looks like
it's all black.
Dexter, plastic.
All the walls are plastic, and it's all made. Everywhere he goes, he sets up this
strange to do
plastic thing.
Yeah, black plastic thing.
Yeah.
What does your dressing room look like, Billy?
It's just whatever I am. I don't even see it. I've been in every shithole in the world. It's just like
not even flowers, nothing. You don't get
You know what I do? Actually, it's straight. I mean, I do ask them to put black on the walls. I mean, I did a long time ago. I don't remember that it became part of the rider. But I just take a little light switch and turn it off. That's all I do. Just turn it down. Then I have my mirror, my makeup mirror. That's it.
Yeah, he's
very simple.
He does stuff like that right. I'm just like in some horrible lighting thing with stuff.
Lighting and temperature are very key to someone's emotions. I bet you see right now, like this lighting and temperatures. It's cold in here, at least.
It is, yeah.
It is cold. Chicago cold.
All right, let's take a few more flesh and blood questions.
Hello.
Talk up, okay?
To both of you, what does it mean to when you're on stage and you see everyone in the crowd just there for you? What does it mean to you that you've inspired them musically and or emotionally, like Mr. Manson has to me? By the way, you're amazing live.
Thank you. Well, for me, it is. It's almost a conversation that I didn't really understand before. It's almost a ritual, but there is an interaction that changes hands, and sometimes it depends on your light show. It depends on if you can see the audience or not. Sometimes I just have lights in my eyes, so I don't see the audience. And other times I do see the audience, but for me, it makes it the music real. Because when you make it, it's in a studio, and often you're by yourself, or you're just, or with your band, but you're not with people that you've never met before. So it's really, for me, my way of communicating with people that normally I'm not good at parties. I'm not good at talking to people. So I made music instead, which seems like the most ass-backward way to do things, to get on stage and sing things when you're afraid to talk to people in regular life. But it makes it normal, and it normalizes me. It levels me into a place where it's the way that it's the only way I can exist now, for me, probably. But I've found other ways to exist. But I've learned from that. I've learned when you can step back and see that that's the way that you communicate. I learned from that. So now I usually use sarcasm to deflect my sensitivity to light and to temperatures.
I don't really know how to answer the question. I think it's a great question, though, because I've seen so many audiences. And I've seen audiences at different times. Like when we first started, it was the rise of that whole mosh pit insanity. And, so somewhere in my mind is the image of 60,000 people literally going. And then fast forward 20 years, and I'm looking at a bunch of people looking at me through their cell phone.
Yeah.
And
that's
so,
a whole new world.
So I have to kind of reconcile what used to feel like a dangerous exercise and what could still be a dangerous exercise again. And I don't mean danger like we want anybody to get hurt. I'm talking about
app.
What's that?
A mosh app.
No, I just to me it was about unleashing a particular emotion or something.
Yeah.
You know, it was an opportunity. It felt like anything could happen. You know, like there's a sense anything can happen.
Anything
Now it doesn't feel like anything can happen. It feels very orderly and
Safe.
very
safe sometimes.
safe at times. So it's like trying to figure out what that really means. So on one hand, I have the job, which is to sing and play well and make sure that all works. But at the same time, personally, I'm looking and trying to find those people who I feel are relating to where we're at today. Because sometimes you see people and their eyes are just totally glazed over. It's like you might as well be on television. That's what you mean to them. You're just you're like something that's objectified. And I don't mean
laughter.
What's that?
Like canned laughter.
No,
or like
I
people
just
on Jerry Springer watching the monitor watching themselves.
We have it where it can be on Twitter, it can be on the street, it can be at the airport. People will say things where it's like you're almost not even real. You know, it's like you're not even there. You're just it's like you're objectified, right?
I'm sorry to hear
Yeah,
that.
no,
What's
that's true.
I'm sorry to hear that.
No, it's okay. It's just part of the gig. But the point is that our job is to pierce that objectification. So if they need to believe something about us or need to feel something or even need to feel comfortable like this concert is okay to their generational mind, our job is to somehow subvert that. Now, 20 years ago, I think it would have been the way we would have tried to subvert it.
I think 20 years ago, we wouldn't have answered that question.
True.
Boom.
True.
Does it?
But also,
like
20 years ago, we would have tried to punch our way through that.
We would.
And I don't think that's an effective way to get through to people because
True.
when their whole life is in their fucking phone, you're not going to defeat that because that phone is they can always find what they're looking for by just hitting the right search engine. So we have to it's almost like you have to come at people in a different way. So when I'm looking out and I see glazed eyes and I see people who are really there because they want to hear what we're doing today, I'm trying to find that balance so I can break through. And where we're able to break through, we've been able to break through a lot lately. You see this other emotion come out, which is almost like a joy or a celebration. Like, wow, this means something, and there's something more here than the set list or the moment. And when I've played, like we just played in South America, it'd be like 40,000 people in the rain. And you're expecting, okay, at what point are they going to leave and go to the other stage? And they don't leave because there's something happening that's rare. It's higher than the moment, the concert, the words. We're celebrating something that's beyond even generational. And that to me is sort of like what I'm thinking is how do I penetrate this fog that's almost like a mass hypnosis because people like us aren't supposed to be defeated by phones, but we are. And we're not just people of our generation. I mean, look at the pop stars that get 2 years, 3 years, then because they don't say the right thing or do the right thing. That's a really interesting new conversation we're having. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, it reminds me of the Bob Dylan song, Mr. Jones, Highway 61 Revisited.
Well, what's the
Something's
line?
happening,
But you don't
know
what it is.
You don't know what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Do you, Mr. Jones? Yeah. Which I think they wrote about Bowie.
I think it was before Bowie.
Well,
I think we have time for maybe 2 or 3 more.
I'll agree to disagree. Go
Hi
on,
guys.
kid.
How's it going?
Hi.
Hi.
You guys are both amazing, and I love both of you.
Thank you.
I was just wondering, I know I heard you say that Cage was opening up for you guys, and that's really, really awesome to have like a newer artist like him opening up for you guys. Is there anybody right now that you guys absolutely love that are maybe just starting or that you're listening to right now on your playlist?
Well, for me, because I'm like really good, the 2014 was a weird year for me. And was weird that I ran into Billy because I didn't really have a lot of guy friends and I didn't really understand how to function like in that whole like let's go have a beer, let's be guys or something. And then even while still having a band, there was a separation and I became really good friends with Cage and he reminded me a lot of myself in different ways and we got along really well. And then I knew Billy would like him, and he hasn't even met him yet, but he will like him. So I thought that he would be perfect for the tour, and it was all very self-indulgent because then I get to be on tour with 2 of my best friends, so it's perfect for me. As far as other music, I put on
Timberlake.
Yeah, but I like to put on Imagine Dragons when someone says something that pisses me off. I just put on Imagine Dragons. And
Really?
They make me mad. This is like a punishment.
Does it make you feel
But I
good?
kind of
Does it make you
like
feel good, or-
like the song, but then I kind of hate liking it. So I put it on as a punishment to everyone in the room. Other than that, I could check my playlist, but I don't really know. Smashing Pumpkins record. You know what's really great is that this is a guilty confession. You already know this. That when Melancholy came out, I didn't really listen to the second CD as much as the first one. So there's a whole bunch of songs on the second CD that are more awesome than I thought that were on the first CD, and I've neglected them because of Twiggy. It was Twiggy's fault. He just kept playing the first CD because we lost the second CD on our fucking bus. We were on a shitty bus, and we lost the CD, the second one. So I pretty much just heard the first one over and over again. So we just play it every day. And then I started listening to the second half of it, and I was like, wow, that shit's hardcore, man. Billy's screaming, and Rex, why are you in it, and whatnot. So I would say the second CD of Melancholy and Infinite Sadness.
It's new to you.
It's new to me right now because I just found it. Not the actual CD. I bought it online on the internet.
I recommend a band that I work with called Ex Cops, and it's been helpful to me work with younger artists because I'm sort of anti-hipster. I think I've been pretty obvious about that, and hipsters get all mad when I say that. It's not that I didn't like hipsters in the 80s.
It's like Silver Lake, but Chicago's like a giant Silver Lake.
Well, we have Wicker Park here.
Yeah, you do have Wicker Park, Silver Lake.
No, but what I don't like is, I'll be at least succinct about it, is I don't like anything that's parochial, meaning like this group decides what's cool and not cool. That's antithetical to what I believe in. So I've been consistent in hating hipster culture from the 80s because hipster culture pegged my band very early on as not being cool enough, whatever the fuck that means. In the 80s, it was the solos.
Join the club.
It was the solos and all this other stuff. Right, okay, right.
Yeah, no,
hipsters don't love you.
100%
right?
not loved by hipsters.
Yeah. So, Ex Cops is a band that was embraced sort of by hipster world. So I like their music, which is why I work with them. But it's cool to see that maybe some of my attitudes about hipsters aren't always accurate. That sometimes what people are really looking for is hard to find in a culture that's so basically through technology. That's like the classic thing. It's like I'm defined by my Tumblr page. I've got these 5 pictures, and these 5 pictures are my personality, even though I didn't make those pictures. I'm not saying that about the Ex-Cops, but I'm saying is it's cool to work with people and understand. So when I look at things like maybe the world that they exist in or they operate in, I have a more maybe empathetic view than I would just from the outside saying, I don't give a shit about all that because everybody's more concerned with their haircut. I think it's really deep down, if you talk to most bands that are in, let's call it hipster world, it's really a search for identity, a deeper identity in a world that's very facile driven. Does that make sense?
You're not a curmudgeon.
Huh?
So you're saying you're not a curmuggeon.
No, I am a curmudgeon, but
no, but you're not. What you're saying is that you are open to the culture that we're around, and you're exposed to it in the way
kids,
that other people are exposed to it.
Kids, if you want to call them kids, kids should make their own music, and they have their own artists. But the audience should demand from those artists something more than right haircut, right T-shirt.
Well, what I always used to say, and I said this, probably 10 years ago. I said I thought the Guff. Remember the Guff?
Yeah.
Who's in that Demi Moore movie?
What?
It's the Guff. It's biblical. The Guff, where it's like the Guff ran out of angels. So then the world came about. The end times came about.
Oh, okay.
The Guff.
The Guff.
I thought the Guff of band names had run out. But if you have a band name that has the in it, or of, or anything like that, or anything complicated, I thought the Guff had run out of band names.
Oh, so yeah, if you just add black and the and of and
anything with the, and let's see with the Doors, other than that.
No, but now it would be like the Black Doors of Death.
The Black Doors of Death. You will know us by the Black Doors of Death that we're following on Twitter. That's a good band.
It's a little better than Fruity, I have to say.
Oh, look at
that! That's your hipster.
Look at sassy. See, hipster. Like, is it why?
Killers.
I bet his glasses are fake. I bet his glasses are fake.
All right, so we
why
have
don't
time
you
for
get LASIK?
It's time for a couple more. You're not a hipster, right?
Get LASIK. LASIK is a good name band too.
Hi, Mr. Corgan. Hi.
Hi.
And for Mr. Manson, your first book, your only book, it It's meant a lot to me. And I was wondering if you still write, and if you do, if you're ever going to publish anything that you write now.
I do. I got trapped in an idea that I had to. I write all the time, and I just babble all the time. You can be testimony to that. It's and I've learned to utilize things like recording myself and I learned that from Hunter S. Thompson. Just that and it's part of the way I write songs now, in that I don't want to keep saying exactly what I'm saying right now. Sometimes I might want to tell a story about what I had seen previously. Not on Lost, but just previously. So whenever I say previously, you want to say on Lost.
I'm lost.
I know. This is a TV show, Lost. So I tell stories, and that's essentially the heart of the blues, which came to me way late in the game. Just the idea that you're telling a story and you're sharing it with someone else, and then they're part of the story, and they can interpret it how they want to while you're telling it to them. And everyone's going to have a different interpretation of it. And both of us have made a lot of music videos that were very groundbreaking and popular, or whatever you might want to call them, whether we liked it or not. It's just what happened. And I remember watching the Today video when I was editing Sweet Dreams, and just, I just remember like that was the era that we were from, when music videos were sort of a commercial in a sense, but there were a lot of directors that got a hard on to think that they were going to make a movie into a music video, and I don't think that that's really the way that you should display music. I think music as a performance, like when you look back at the Doors, you look back at David Bowie or the Rolling Stones, they were just the performers performing. There wasn't a storyline so much.
But what does this have to do with the book?
I'm getting back to the book.
All right.
That I like to tell stories about myself, but I don't like to do it in music in the same way. So I think that I will probably publish a book, but it will be more of a road journey. A little bit more, a combination of Bukowski and, Charles Bukaki. That's what I'll probably give him a pen name, Charles Bukaki. Is that good, Billy? You like that one? No?
I don't know what that means.
What you know what Bukaki means?
No, I don't.
Charles Bukowski. Charles Bukaki.
Okay, we really just have time for like maybe two more. So I know that you asked earlier. Do you just want to?
The answer is yes. Whatever the question was, I could have just said yes. Should have been
thanks for making this free and open to the public. So. I have 2 quick questions. As a musician, it's inspiring to hear these sort of things because I aspire to experience these things. So I was just wondering.
What do you play?
Guitar.
Okay.
So I was just wondering, was there ever a defining moment that you literally thought to yourself, okay, I can do this, and I can make a living off of this, and I believe enough in my music to succeed?
Well, my father was a musician, so I grew up with this kind of air of like, no matter what you do, you're not going to be able to break through, and I felt that very keenly early on. There was a vibe back in the day like you couldn't be successful out of Chicago. No bands ever made it out of Chicago. Blah 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 blah. So it was really weird because we kept kind of tweaking what we were doing, and we did it for about 2 years, and then right around 1990 we found this balance of the psychedelia and the heaviness or whatever was that became that sound, and it was like the crowds just like doubled overnight. It was the strangest thing, and it was the first sign to me that like if you could just find the right soul in the music or heart in the music, like people would it's like the Field of Dreams, like if you build it they'll come. And I really believe that, like if you look at the most successful artists of the 20th and 21st century, whether it's Bob Marley or Damien Hirst or Pablo Picasso or Marilyn Manson, they're almost individuals without, they can be copied, but they can't be duplicated. There's only one of them. And so at the end of the day, success really to me is always defined by singularity, and whether or not you can take that singularity and do something about it in a consistent way. Which is why it's so hard to explain to people sometimes that even being consistent in the music business, which has obviously gone through a lot of changes over the last 25 to 30 years, you're fighting off all these forces that the public can't see. So sometimes when they say, "Oh, I didn't like that record," they don't understand that the guy from the record company was totally fucking you and trying to steal money from you, and literally, willing to kill your dog to get you out of the contract, and all this fucking head stuff that. And you got to go out and try to sell the record as something pure and beautiful and totally evocative of what you've created. It's a really difficult journey. Yeah. And when you're in that position, when you're first having those songs connect to people, and that thrill and exhilaration of connecting with an audience like we were in 1990, you never think that 7-8 years down the road somebody's going to be pointing a literal gun at your head, trying to get you to make a certain type of music, or basically get on your knees and beg for your job. It's like you never see that as part of the journey. So it really helps. So what I'm trying to say is it really helps to always maintain that sense of innocence and understand that the greatest power any artist can have in the world, no matter what system it is, no matter who runs the system, no matter who controls it, your individuality and the singularity of your voice is your great weapon against the world. It's the one thing that keeps you in the conversation. It's the one thing that keeps people curious. It's the one thing that keeps them coming back even if they don't like you. Even if they ask you the question, "Why are you still here?" which I've been asked for 20 years. You at least belong in that conversation because you've done something worthy of rejection. If it doesn't mean anything, there's nothing to talk about. They just whisk it away because there's so many other things to focus on.
Yeah, I think that also another thing to add to what you're saying is that a lot of people don't understand that for someone like me, and I think Billy probably also, that we've been in these record contracts for a great portion of our lives. When we were young, we were growing up, and it was always about getting a record deal, and that was the biggest deal. It's getting a record deal.
Absolutely.
But now it's a different world, so people don't understand in the same way. It was like the big thing was to get a record deal, but it was the most stupid thing to do at the time. But it was basically like taking a loan out on the bank. But I understand why people like Prince or just us, just basically that we've been so traumatized at times as artists that we wanted to quit. We wanted to stop making music because we would make songs and we give them to the record label and they would do what they want to do with them, but they would also insult you in such a way. It was grotesque in the sense that you really want to shoot them. You want to go Suge Knight on them. That's what you want to do. And I understand.
What'd you say?
You want to go what? Suge Knight on them. You do. Like, I mean, and sometimes, like, you understand why, like, because we don't come from the same background as, like, rappers. And, like, sometimes we're a little too timid for that because we didn't grow up that way. And I know a lot of people that have been in music and have done things that are not us, but because of our way, we have taken these financial and business dealings with record companies, which we never anticipated or bargained for personally, and it hurt us emotionally, and it almost affected our art to the point where we didn't want to make art anymore. And luckily now we're in a position where we don't have to take that. And that's a good position where I was when I started my band in the first place, where I had a demo tape and I said, "Here's my demo tape. You want to play it or not, motherfuckers?" That's where you applaud. Boom.
All right, I think we got time for just one more quick question.
Thank you. So please don't ever stop making music. Ever, never, even when you're in a wheelchair and you're on stage.
Oh,
we will still come to see you.
Why do we have to be in wheelchairs?
Well, whatever your
I'm not planning on being in a wheelchair.
Okay.
He'll have that whole robotic man thing going.
I love it.
It'll be like 150. Just
I'll pay to see it.
I will ride on Billy's back.
I just want to say thank you for the new album, Manson, and
Thanks.
the new video is amazing.
Thank you.
I really appreciate all your visual input, your visual art aspects to everything that you do. So that leads me to ask you what's going on with Phantasmagoria. Is that, I mean, at all a possibility? if not, if you don't even want to answer that question, I totally
Nah,
understand. But
it was very similar to the music business. Movie business is much more complicated, and I abandoned that idea after the fact that, well, first of all, it was a story about someone with a split personality. Lewis Carroll, Charles Dodson, the guy who wrote Alice in Wonderland. And I had made a joke to my manager that I wanted to self-induce schizophrenia, and I think that I might have done that while writing it. So let's just say I went a little bit over the wrong. I went a little bit south of France with my brain-wise. Yeah. Nice. Marseille.
That's how we say it around here. Marseilles.
Marseille.
Marseilles, actually.
But the story to me right now isn't as important as maybe a different story. I identified too much with the character that I was writing about because it was like me. And I think that putting my efforts into something different might be more productive. I know that people liked the trailer thing that I made, and that was a trailer for a movie that didn't exist. That's how I got the movie deal to make it. But I like acting better than directing. It's much easier because they just tell me what to do, and I could be different characters, and it's fun.
Yeah, I'm actually starting to think about making movies myself. So I've already talked to him about being in one of my movies.
That's what he and I.
Make sure he's in front of the camera, please.
Who?
Manson.
Yeah, he's.
You don't want me in front of the camera?
Yeah.
No, he's a great actor, honestly.
If there's more footage, would you ever consider like releasing what you have? I mean,
Oh, no,
diehard fans are willing to.
There's not really more footage. I mean, there was. It was originally started as a bunch of short films, idea in my head, and there's not a film. There's never been a film that was made.
But
people think it, but
just the hijack thing. But that's the beauty, because I've been with him now a bunch, and people ask about this a lot. And I don't even know what it is. But that's the beauty is when you find something that people are interested in, they keep coming back to it.
Yeah,
and that's the answer to the young man's question before.
Tap into that.
It's what I'm saying is if you get it right, things happen.
Yeah.
You don't need all this begging and pleading. You don't need to get on your knees and say, "Please come to my show. Please, please buy my record."
That was actually the thing that I was going to end with. Saying about where Bluetooth in the mind was that we didn't realize when we started out that when record labels were throwing money at us and saying, "Hey, we want you," that we were the ones that they needed. We're the product.
Well, the whole psychology of that music business, and it still exists, is that you need them. Yeah,
we need them, and we don't. We didn't ever. But at the time, we thought that we did, and it made you a bit of a slave. And a lot of people,
remember Prince?
Yeah, that's what I was saying about Prince. Yeah, it's a different era. And it's good. It's positive, I think, in some way. And I think that if anyone can make music now, I remember when GarageBand came out, people were terrified. They're like, "Oh my God, this is gonna ruin music." I'm like, there's been guitars around and pianos since the dawn of time. I don't know why this would be any different. To me, it didn't make sense. Same way with the dawn of technology you were talking about, and things that. It's not the dawn of technology, it's the dusk of technology, but it's the concept that you have to be, it just goes back to the basics, and we do what we do, and we do it well, and we do it right, and we're going to do it very well on tour together. Boom, the end.
Thank you.
All right, so
I'm a closer.
Since this is the End Times tour, final question. How do you guys want to be remembered?
We just, what you mean when we're dead?
Yeah, I guess.
I don't really care when I'm dead. That's the thing.
Okay.
I honestly don't. But I think that we've made our dent that we wanted to make, but we want to enjoy it right now. Sometimes you forget when you get to the dream to actually enjoy living the dream. And I think that this is a beautiful opportunity that me and Billy, who are friends, and known each other for so long, have done shit together, but not actually done music together or performed or done concerts together. This is a childhood dream of me as a fan of Smashing Pumpkins, as me as a fan of music, and as wanting to do it. It's because I earned it, I worked for it, and I'm happy, and obviously it's an honor to do a tour with you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm superstitious. I don't like how I want to be remembered, and I don't think it's going to matter anyway.
No. Right. I don't remember even what you
I'll tell you
said.
what.
I don't even remember
they
what
may
you just asked.
they may forget us later, but they're definitely going to remember us now.
I don't even remember the question.
It's a great note to end on. Thank you guys so much.
God bless everybody.
Thank you all for coming out.
I don't know. I think we could do like this.
That's the wrestling you got to do.
Or the thumb.
Oh, you did that.
That's our new handshake.
What is it?
The thumb.
Isn't that?
The thumb.
That's the thumb?
The thumb.